All right, hello guys. So we're back. We're back. Doing a little bit of multi-streaming, so we'll see how that goes. I guess I gotta figure it out how I want to do it because right now I'm using OBS for this stuff, but tonight's stream will be Streamlabs, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, how's everybody doing? We're gonna be doing a preview stream. I want to do this for the rest of the episodes. I didn't do it last week because I just wasn't really able to do so. But yeah, so we're gonna be talking about episode 4 before we actually get the episode, what to expect, and maybe some of the stuff that's been rumored so far. Hi Matthew, how are you? I am doing well. I'm doing well. Also, I will be live on this channel after the episode drops as well, so 2 streams today. This one will probably be a little bit shorter than that one will be, but yeah. Hi Maz, how are you? Hi Tie-Dye, how are you? And then hello Ghost. So let's kind of take some questions. So I asked for some questions, topics you guys had for the episode, and let's kind of just go right at it. So I got asked about an hour ago by Radical, what is your favorite dragon? My favorite dragon is probably Caraxes. I think Vagar is a good option. Sunfire, Balerion are all cool, but I would personally say Caraxes is probably my favorite dragon. Chat, let me know who is your favorite dragon. But yeah, Maz, you're double dipping. Ooh, you like to see that. You do like to see that. I will say, if you want to follow the Twitch, I am live on Twitch as well. I'm thinking maybe in the off season on House of the Dragon, when stuff kind of cools down, I might do some other stuff just exclusively on Twitch, because I don't want it to mess up my YouTube algorithm. But yeah. Craxy's all the way. The Bloodworm, I agree. It's a personal favorite of mine. But Maz, you a true OG. Did I mod you over there yet? Hold on. Let me take a look. I don't remember if I modded you or not. Yeah, I already modded you. Okay, cool. All right, so next question. Let's move on. User asks, and I think this is a fascinating question. Is it a crime that Sunfire wasn't introduced until this episode? I think so. Right, because, Craxy seems to, have its own personality with Damon, and we've seen Cyrax a number of times, and Melees, and Vagar, but Sunfire, described as, the most beautiful dragon, we're not seeing until this episode, and so I won't spoil anything going into it, but it is kind of a shame that we haven't seen Sunfire in its glory up to this point, so I guess we'll have to see how that goes. Ghost asked another question backed off of the idea of Sunfire. What are you hoping to see from Sunfire this episode? Any expectations from his book counterpart that could be used in this episode? I'm going to try to stay pretty non-spoilery with it, but what I'm expecting to see is, this is the Dance of the Dragons, the title of the episode. I'm expecting us, to see some of the dragons being used, whether that's to take castles, whether that's, taking out armies. We want to see these dragons actually finally kind of at work and at war. We've only really seen it with kind of Damon in the Stepstones. We saw a glimpse of it, what really wasn't really a fight, though, between Luke and Aemond. It was so one-sided, it's hard to say that was even a fight. It's going to be cool to see the dragons kind of in their full splendor as this episode's been kind of building up to that moment. It should be a great episode, and I think a lot of the reviews coming out, a lot of people that have already seen the episode really like this episode. I think it's been back and forth, and people that have seen it, as I've looked on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, most people are kind of back and forth between episode 2 and 4 being the best of the first 4 that most people have been able to view. So it should be a pretty good episode. I have a definitely high expectations, given that episode 2 is really well done. If people are even somewhat not, or kind of in between on which episode's better, it usually would probably indicate that episode 4 is probably going to be good. But I also have heard some things, some rumors that there might be some controversial moments in this episode, maybe some book changes. So, I don't know. It's kind of hard to speculate, right? I think a theory that I thought was really interesting is, will Aemond turn on Aegon in this episode? That seems to be foreshadowed in episode 3, given that Aegon is kind of bullying his brother. And it seems like Aemond has lost that last part of humanity, that place where he could go to talk about some of his deeper inner conflicts. It's very similar to, like, I've just started watching The Sopranos. I really struggle to say that for some reason. Where, the first couple episodes, I'm only into episode like 4, but this is kind of the vibe you get from the first season at least, is, you have this big mob leader, more or less, and he's talking to his therapist. That's the only person he can really talk to. It's kind of the same vibe that Aemond has with this woman that seems like it's gone now, right? Now that people know he's doing that thing, he kind of loses a little bit of that safe place. And so could that be something we could see having some sort of repercussions in this episode or going forward with that Aemond and Aegon dynamic? How are they going to work together, as they really are the only two dragon riders that we know of right now in the show? I mean, Daeron has been named, but he's still not part of the show really at this point. He's kind of in the background, just lurking right now. Kind of like a Oberyn season 3 type thing, where it's like, there's some Martells, and they're probably doing stuff off screen, but they're just not on screen, right? So it'll be interesting. Like, they're going to have to work together, because right now the Blacks have way more dragons, and we'll see how that kind of works. How will Aemond go about going through the rest of the season? Also, Radical, I hope you joined as I answered your question, but for your question, I did answer Caraxes. I'm biased towards everything Daemon. Yeah, I hope we see a lot more Daemon in this episode. In terms of, his Harrenhal stuff, the dynamic with Alice Rivers. I really hope we do get to see more of him in this episode. I think we will, given what I've seen from people that have already looked at the episode. Did you see George R. R. Martin's new Not a Blog post, another offhand mention of the Winds of Winter? George R. R. Martin seems to be more positive lately. So, Remix, I want to, let's bring this up. I think this is a good topic, right? So, I don't remember him. I read it. I don't remember him mentioning a single thing about Winds of Winter, but let's go through it. So, George put out this was actually today. Oh, okay. Hold on. Was there anything? So there's a new, okay, hold on. Fills me with dread. So many people are cross with me because of how long it is taking me to finish Winds of Winter. Will they be buying me chocolate by the thousands and biting off my chocolate head in their wrath? But maybe it's not me after all. The guy in the picture is seeing an apple. So he talks about Winds of Winter, but that doesn't seem to me to be very positive. He's just kind of saying that, it's taking him a long time to do Winds of Winter, and a lot of people are not happy with him in that terms. And he also gets kind of political in it, so I won't really talk about that too much. But he doesn't really, from what I gained from that, he doesn't seem too positive about the Winds of Winter. He just kind of mentions it. It didn't really seem like positive to me or not, but whatever. But I want to talk about something else, because there's actually some interesting stuff as George just kind of commented on the show, right? He talked about House of the Dragon, how he's really liked some of the characters and how they've been building off of some stuff in the show. He talked about Blood and Cheese, and it kind of seems that he alludes to not being the biggest fan of it. He seems to kind of agree with fans. It's kind of the way I looked at it. He gave it a very like politician like thought process of it, where he was like, yeah, people have been pretty critical of it, and it's different than Blood and Cheese. And so he kind of just says, oh, well, the book is the book, the show is the show. I thought that was kind of interesting. George actually kind of acknowledging some stuff that he maybe was not a big fan of. He did like episode 2 a lot, which I think makes a lot of sense. I'd be interested to see what his thoughts are on episode 3. He didn't really comment too much on episode 3 in this, outside of just saying, Aegon's doing really well, and Helena and all that stuff. But yeah, I don't think there's a ton to take away from that, outside of the fact that George does maybe, I think, share some of that, I think, agreement of the fans of how Blood and Cheese was kind of handled. We see Sunfire for just a small moment in like episode 7. Do we really? I don't remember that, but I will take your word on it. I can't wait to see Grandma. It's not a war crime if it's the first time Vagar in action. Oh boy, Maz. Oh boy. Sunfire is gonna be crazy this episode. Yeah, it'd be awesome to see that. Dragon's gonna be dancing. It is true. It is true. I don't know anything about the leaks about the episode. I just know there are leaks. I just have stayed away from them. Sopranos is my favorite series ever. Yeah, I've heard good things about it. I just kind of started it yesterday. I watched a couple episodes, and it does seem pretty good. There's just one. So I'm not gonna talk about this based upon spoilers, but Ghost will, whatever happens, we'll talk about it after the episode. Hi Larissa, how are you? Would be cool if in season 3, episode 1, we see Daron claimed Saurian. Yeah, it'd be really cool. I just want to see more of Daron. He's my favorite character from the Greens, or from the Alicent Brood, I should say. So I definitely want to see Daron soon. George likes the addition of the dog. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the dog just kind of gets its vengeance, it seems. It's a nice moment where it's like, oh, this horrible moment where you kick a dog and then the dog looks up at your corpse. I mean, it's very Georgie. It's very Georgie. If it gets Winds of Winter out sooner, I will buy him all the chocolate he wants. Agreed. We'll start a chocolate fund on the channel. You think George is a bit salty that Maelor is cut calling him Maelor the Missing? Yeah, I think he probably does, right? I think it's a very powerful moment that George made. It's one of the highlights, or one of the big moments of Fire and Blood as a whole. It's one of the most memorable moments, and it wasn't done, really at all in the show. Like, they took what happens, more or less, the result, and they kind of got there their own way, and it was very different from the book. So I think, yeah, he probably is not a huge fan. Hi, Ashley. I want to give my condolences now. It's going to be a rough time after the episode, Ashley. That's all I got to say. I don't think George wants to comment on anything. He doesn't like while the show is airing. Once season 2 is done, he might talk. Yeah, I think that's what I was kind of getting at, Radical, is like, the Nada blog, it seems to lean into, he didn't say anything positive about it, and he doesn't really seem to say, like, oh, he hates it, but he seems to give a very political answer, where it's like, yeah, he just addresses that people were kind of critical of it, but he doesn't, like, disagree. So that's kind of where I'm like, I feel like he probably agrees, but he doesn't want to say anything, like you said. So it was the same thing kind of with Game of Thrones, right? He kind of voiced his opinions a little bit after the show, like, maybe ended, and after seasons came out and stuff like that. Jim, I did see that in Discord. I hope you have a great night at work, and we can always talk about the episode in tomorrow's stream. It's very weird. I'm streaming 3 times in the span of like 24 hours, but yeah, we can definitely talk about my scene-by-scene analysis if you would like, Jim. I have a theory that the sewing will be in episode 7 or 8. I definitely think that's a good idea, Radical. I like that. Maybe they cut Maelor because Bitterbridge is traumatic. That's fair, Radical. That might be. Blood and Cheese is watered down. I agree. Yes, George did like how Helena's, and I to me as well. I've talked about this the whole season. I think, though the actual depiction of Helena has been really good. I really like the actress. I like what they're giving the character to do. I definitely think she's been a very big improvement from Fire and Blood. You might have to. You might have to get a little freaky with Aegon. George is professional, which is why he doesn't bash D&D while Game of Thrones is airing. Agreed. All right, so let's get to some more questions. Do you think there will be any large departures from what we know in the books with Rook's Rest? So, it's hard to talk about this question, Matthew, without going into spoilers, but I'll just say, like, briefly, we've kind of seen through, not all 3, I guess through all 3 episodes, because they kind of changed some stuff that was positive in episode 2 that I had no issues with, but all 3 episodes have kind of shown that they're very willing to change things from Fire and Blood, or go maybe a different route, or tweak things. The one thing I will say about the episode, I hope if they change things, which I think they will, they execute them well. I think the big issues that fans have had with some of the changes they've made so far in this season have been the execution. It's not been exactly the change that they're trying to do, because some of their changes are understandable. You can understand the motivations behind them, but they're not executing them the best. Like, I talked about this at length for last episode about the idea of Alicent and Rhaenyra, like, meeting up. And in concept and theory, that could be an interesting idea based upon the fact that there's definitely some unresolved things between the two and where the two characters are at. And I would have accepted it much more if it had been done better, right? So maybe, like, people have said in my comments on that video, like, why didn't they just have like an official like meeting, right, where both sides just came together and maybe Alicent and Rhaenyra just talked it out or something like that. And that doesn't need to involve everyone, right? Aegon can publicly condemn it, but Alicent will still go, right? And that's kind of what Rhaenyra's whole plan is, right? That she knows like people like Aemond and Aegon aren't going to come to it, but maybe people like Alicent will. And then you could have had something like that where it makes more sense. It doesn't put Rhaenyra in complete danger. It's not completely detrimental to where I feel like her character is right now. So if we're going to make changes, especially on big moments, right? This next episode's a very big moment. Make it to where it makes sense. And so I alluded to one, right? If they want to change, Aemond in this episode compared to the book material that we get of the character, this would be an interesting time to do it because they've built it up. Now, we'll see how they do execution going forward, whether they're going to make changes to, Rhaenys in the episode, Kristen Cole, Aegon, Aemond, whatever they're going to do. Just hopefully they're doing it for the right reasons, which I feel like they have been. They just haven't been executing them. That is going to be what I'm going to say. And we'll talk about them after the episode, of course. I'll be interested because me and Ricky, we haven't really, talked about episode 3. So, I think tonight we'll have an interesting moment where it's like the midpoint of the season, right? You really know, you kind of get the feeling of what the season's going to be after this episode. And so we can talk about episode 3, we can talk about episode 4, kind of what the season so far has given us, and hopefully they hit on it. That'd be my biggest thing. Hopefully they hit on it. That is true, Radical. That is true. I don't like Helena's gilded reception to her son's death, or reaction. Reaction. I definitely get that, Ashley. I get that. To me, I feel like it works better in the show because Helena's just a different character in the show than she is in the book, right? Helena's just more like normal in the book. She's just kind of like a normal mother. And so that moment, works better for that character and having Alicent there than it does kind of here, where Helena's not been shown to be someone that's just normal. She's been shown to be someone that is kind of seems like struggling through some issues while also being this, dreamer or seer. So yeah, I think it's just a different take to me. I think, like you said earlier, the dynamic between Aemond and Aegon will be different here. Or Aemond may just sit back and watch something. Yeah, I mean, think about all the possibilities you could have, right? If the two are going off to war in this episode, if that's where we're going, limitless possibilities between the two characters could start happening. I just started reading Fire and Blood. Well, enjoy. I'm a really big fan of Fire and Blood. I know some people aren't, and it's not for everybody, but I am a huge fan of Fire and Blood. I see videos defending how episode 3 ended, and now that it's been a week, do you still not like the change? If I'm still not okay with it, Radical, I am someone that once I have my opinion on something, it's going to take a lot for me to not have that opinion, right? Because for me personally, when I watched episode 3, I watched it, streamed it, talk about it with community, rationalize like my thoughts on the actual thing, watched it again, and trying to look for maybe, why more information as to why they maybe did that change, and is it more understandable on a second watch? Because sometimes your second watch, you're going to catch things you didn't on the first watch. So to me personally, I still don't like it. I don't know how you defend it in a way that makes sense. I think a lot of people, and this is just a different way of looking at content. I think a lot of people look at what did we get with that scene, right? So what did we get in the conversation with Alicent and Rhaenyra? They look at that and they go, oh, okay, I really liked this moment. So they kind of are allowing a pass for some of the other stuff going on, right? So the actual addition of, okay, Rhaenyra, the threat level of her going to King's Landing. They don't maybe comprehend, or maybe they look at Rhaenyra as a different character, or interpret the character differently than I do. For me personally, Rhaenyra is not shown that she's an illogical person that tends to really give into emotion. Maybe when she was younger, she did, right? You can point to examples to when she was younger. But the older version of Rhaenyra is not shown that way. She's not shown as someone that gives into her emotion unless she's really, really pushed into it, right? So maybe you could point to her marrying Damon, right? That was a very emotional, compulsive decision. I wouldn't agree with that. I think that was actually a very good move for Rhaenyra. She needed this stability. She needed strength behind her claim, and Damon was that strength. So, to me, I think I am someone that really harps on the fact of how do we get to a moment, because that moment won't feel earned for me if we don't get there naturally. So, for instance, one of the best changes that they made in season 1, which was Viserys kind of coming to Rhaenyra's aid, was completely built up to, right? Rhaenyra felt like she was at her most exposed, her most vulnerable, she's leaning on her father for help. It's Viserys getting this one last moment to protect, his daughter and all of that. And so it really feels really earned in that moment with Viserys going up there and sitting on the throne, one last time. It felt earned. And so stuff like Alicent and Rhaenyra, where it just feels like, okay, how do we get into King's Landing? All this stuff happens in like one episode, really like half an episode of execution. And yes, it has things that are built up throughout the rest of the seasons, like that relationship between Rhaenyra and Alicent, and how there's still some stuff that is not closed yet. There's still some open wounds there. And so I look at that and I go, okay, I get why they wanted the scene, but the execution of where we got there, where you have Rhaenyra sneaking around King's Landing, of just not even thinking about any of the consequences, not thinking about how illogical this may seem, the multitude of different ways that this could have been done better. I just still don't view the scene being like good at all. But I don't know. Why not introduce Sunfire before tonight? I mean, part of it, I guess, comes down to maybe budget. Other things, maybe they think it just wasn't, necessary, or maybe that they didn't want that thing to happen. But in my opinion, I think that's a bad excuse. The Rhaenys moment, for instance, right? When you look at Rhaenys in season 1, bursting through the ground at Aegon's coronation, you could have easily taken the budget of that scene, and all you had to do differently was just have Aegon on his dragon and Sunfire just coming down, right? Like that's it. That's all you need to happen, and that would be really cool, and it would be more impactful than some illogical scene with Rhaenys that didn't make any sense. So I don't know. I think it is a little disappointing, and I don't know. Is Aegon the Second and Aegon the Conqueror wannabe? I think a lot of Targaryens are that way. I don't, distinctively put that on Aegon the Second, but think about all the Targaryens that want to live up to Aegon the Conqueror. Daenerys is an Aegon the Conqueror wannabe, if you think about it, right? Her whole journey is completely mirrored by Daenerys. So I think everybody wants to be Aegon, especially during this time, right? You either want to be a mix of like Aegon and Jaehaerys, or you look up to one of those people, and Aegon was more of like the military leader because he unified all of the kingdoms. I think if you're a Targaryen king, especially named after Aegon, you're going to want to live up to his name. Actually, I get that. I think the thing is, right, that it's not just about like those, autistic people not having feelings. It's also mixed with him or her being like a seer, her being plagued with these dreams of horrible things happening. It kind of makes her almost a very numb character. I feel like if episode 4 through episode 8 is great TV, then the first 3 episodes won't be as complained about as they have been. People are calling them too slow. I get why people are calling them too slow, right? Because I personally don't think the episodes are moving slow at all. I don't get that feeling at all. I think it's more like casual audience and the way they look at the episodes and the way that they were teased, right? This season was teased as the war season, right? Stuff was going to start happening. We haven't really seen the war happen. And so episode 4 is really where the war starts. And so, I don't know. I think people are just, they want to see the war. They want to see that spectacle, and we're not kind of there yet. But I do agree, like, if the last 4 episodes, or the last 5 episodes, right, of this season are all great TV, yeah, people are going to not remember about episode 3 and 1 as much, right? Think about, I think Ricky made a great point, like the idea of, Tyrion's trial in episode 6 of season 4. We also have the Asha stuff, which is bad, but people don't remember that because of how good season 4 is. So, yeah, if the rest of the season's really good, you can definitely hide some of those mistakes. Also, haven't done this in a while. I got my Aquafina water, and we're not sponsored by Aquafina, of course, but Aquafina water is the best water. So stay hydrated. I'm just saying, Aquafina. I already got the script down. That's all I'm saying. What would you think if I won't say that because it's kind of a spoiler, but Radical, just responding to your question, I do think it's a possibility. I think it's a possibility maybe at the very ending of the season, like ending out the season or start of the next season. But I do agree. I think it's more likely next season for me. Episode 3 is a 6.5 for me, by the way. Wow, I guess I'm not that far away. I think episode 3 is probably like a 7 for me. I think it's like the lowest rating I would give a good episode, right? If you go below that 7 rating to me, that's when it's like, this is not good TV anymore. And I don't think that was the case with the episode. I just think I'm kind of between a 7.5 and a 7. I think the episode's very similar to episode 1. But I think episode 1, Blood and Cheese, was executed better. And then the episode 3 kind of finale stuff. So that's why it's kind of a slightly better to me. You guys think they'll change Helena's fate? Definitely could be. If they do change it, Matthew, could be something where they change the reasoning behind it, or we get more into what actually happens. I just don't like what they're doing with Helena now at all. Season 1, yes. Season 2, fair enough, Ashley. Again, everybody has their own opinions on it, so. I'm expected to be blown out of the Iron Throne with today's episode, hopefully. Aegon, it should be a good episode. Also, you're going to have to comfort, I don't know why I said confront, Ashley. I forgot what a non-character of Viserys was in the books. Yes, he is not really a character at all. He's a better version of Aegon the Fourth, more or less. Aegon, I didn't say that. That's all I'll say. No, I like the Ulf the White scene. I think it's building up him as a character. I think that was fine. I liked the result of the Aegon and Aemond like scene as well. I just didn't like the over necessity of nudity. That just didn't need to be needed to me. Are you concerned about the handling of the writing going forward? Yes, I will say yes. Now, I wasn't at the beginning of the season. I felt a little bit more, I guess, confident in them because I thought they were going to take more of our criticism and looking at what they did wrong with episode 1 and improve that. And so far, they haven't done that. So far, this season has been very similar to season 1. Like, there's a lot of good in there, but there's also like a decent amount of questionable and just like I just don't like things happening in the season. And I think the worst part of it is, like, as you go through the seasons, you get bigger and bigger moments, and you get stuff where you can't afford to mess it up. That's where I'm sitting there, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And it's one of those things where it's like, I'm hoping episode 4 is really good tonight because, or at least I don't come out of it with, like, some really massive thing that I'm like, that didn't work for me, wasn't good to me, and then have to make a video about it this week saying why, it wasn't that great. Because at this point, I'm kind of like, it's just, I'm at like a point of where I'm trying not to be disappointed because the show's still good, but I think it could be so much better. It could be so much better, and that's the part of it. It's like, because I love, the time period of this show of Fire and Blood, and I like, a lot of things that in season 1 that I'm very passionate that I want it to be better than what it is, and so, I don't know, we'll see what happens. So Aegon the Conqueror, he was the beginning of the Targaryen dynasty in Westeros. There were Targaryens before him, at Dragonstone and then Valyria. And so the Targaryens, the kind of vibe that I get of them is that they were never like this huge, big house, even in Valyria. So their real true power, where they were at the tip of their power, was like Aegon the Conqueror to Jaehaerys and like Viserys' reign. I have never heard of that kind of water, Radical. Why are you live? Why didn't I get the notification? And who thinks Aquafina is the best water? Dakota, it is the best water. Also, I don't know. Do you have notifications on, Dakota? That's all I gotta say. But yeah, I don't know. Dakota, if you're that worried about it, you can go to the Twitch and follow there. And if you don't get either one of the notifications from either of those, I don't know what to tell you. Oh God, Aegon, my chambers are always open. Feel free to come by. I'll be need and solace too, seeing the power of my. Oh God, Aegon and Ashley are gonna hook up. Oh God. Why do you think season 2 is the only only 8 episodes, and is the pacing? So the pacing is good for me. I think 8 episodes is fine, right? I just think we're not trying to push the narrative too quick, right? Because it seems like we're not going to get the battle of the gullet in this episode, or not in this episode. Of course, not getting in this episode. In this season, which tells me, we're taking our time with things, and so that's kind of what we've seen from the start of the season so far, right? We've kind of taken a lot of time to build up our characters and giving character moments specifically. I agree, DJ. I agree. I heard the episode is some hot trash. Well, I mean, I've stayed away from leaks. Voice of oh hi Ricky, by the way. 2 live streams in one day. This guy doesn't sleep. See, I'm the one that doesn't sleep. You're the guy that's gonna be up at like 5 a.m. But yeah, I will see you later. I'm doing 3 live streams in the next like 24 hours. My voice is gonna be dead. Well, not having a reread to do this week does help my voice. I won't lie, because reread is basically just like 40, 50 minutes of talking. So, I need to skip the brothel scene as I watched with my mom. Fair enough. Ricky is still on my hit list. Oh God. I don't think it's going to be the same way, Ander. I just hope they execute it well. Maybe Rhaenyra will become more like her book counterpart as war changes her. Yeah, I think they're going for like a slow decline, which for me, I think it's interesting the way they're doing it, because I think they could have gone a different route, especially in episode 1 of changing the character and giving us more of where I feel like the character is in the book. But I think we'll just have to see how it plays out, right? It's hard to judge now, but we'll have to see. I watched it alone, I think. Yeah, I just watched it alone on last Sunday, but yeah. How dare you compare me to that synthesis? I'm sorry, Aegon. It just slipped out. I don't know. Episode 4 is 95% well and then ends controversially. I hope they change that formula. I hope not. I hope not. I hope episode 4 is just really good. At one point, wasn't there like 400 dragons? I don't know how many exactly dragons there were, but like in Valyria, it was very common to have dragons and stuff like that. It wasn't like how Westeros was, because after the Doom of Valyria, it's really just the Targaryens who have dragons, so the dragon population goes down quite a bit. Dakota, I can definitely relate to you as somebody that has gotten a lot of shots while being basically completely exposed. I feel you on that one. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Obviously I have the notifications on. Dakota, I was just checking. I was just being like that school tech guy that's like, did you try turning it on and off again? Maybe Matthew. I don't know though. I feel like they haven't really built up to it yet. Who will sneak into King's Landing this week? Let's put some bets down. Okay, so my bet is we're gonna see Jace and Helena together. There we go. But yeah, I like your reading chapters where they mention the Dance of the Dragons. Yes, my favorite mention is Daenerys when she is proud she's an ancestor or descendant of Maegor the Cruel. I always find that one. I'm like, that's right, Daenerys. That's right. Ashley, let's hope not. I'm trying to avoid any comments that I see where there's like stuff like that. Is there any nudity in the latest episode? Chungy, there's a lot. well, I guess there's just one specific like scene of like 5-10 minutes, which yeah. In episode 3, there's a lot. I don't know about episode 4. You know. When Eamon walked out the brothel, do you think he just walked to a locker room, or do you think he walked? Imagine though. Imagine Eamon just like did the walk of shame. Like he's like sitting back, and he's like, "Wow, Cersei copied my style," and she even has got all these people like praising her do it. Wow, that's crazy. I'm assuming he just had some clothes outside of the room. But logically, you would think your clothes would be in the room with the brothel worker. So, like, maybe he did. Maybe Vhagar was, like, waiting. He sensed Vagar's emotions and was just like, I'm gonna just land right here in the street. And then naked Aemon's just gonna go flying along. Oh, boy. I heard Allison be sneaking in a Dragonstone sometime this season. Oh, maybe. Okay, maybe Alice. Okay, here's a theory. Here we go. Allison and Kristen Cole are gonna break up. Allison's gonna go try to hook up with Jace because she likes going after the people that were close to Rhaenyra at some point. And yeah, or even bigger thought, Daemon, who's at Harrenhal. Allison goes to Daemon because she had a crush on her. There is a rumor in Fire and Blood that allows it, so let's do that one. I like that. Gotta go now for getting an ultrasound. Dakota, I hope everything goes well, and let me know how you doing later. Since the war is unavoidable now, yeah. Pull for who's next to sneak into King's Landing. Okay, I like that. Hold on. How do I even do that? I guess I gotta do it on. Yeah, I gotta do it through here. All right. Next, what should I say? Next, sneak into KL. You guys know what KL means. It's King's Landing. Okay, so we'll do. So Daemon and Rhaenyra have already done it. So let's do Jace and Jace, Rhaenys. We'll do Corlys. We'll do. Who's another good one? Joffrey. Yeah, Joffrey. Let's do that one. Joffrey. All right. Oh, Baela. No, I like Baela instead. Let's do Baela. All right. Hold on. Okay, I was making sure I wasn't a fool. Cause my YouTube, like when I go into my YouTube manager or whatever, it still was showing me on the stream starting screen, and I just realized it was really far behind. I'm currently in my cups right now, preparing for the worst tonight. Oh God, Aegon. Andrew, I would appreciate no spoilers. I don't want to be spoiled, but yeah. I'm rereading Dunk and Egg again. Love to see it. Radical, didn't we talk about this whenever the last stream was? You're rereading Dunk and Egg? Hi, Random Stuff. How are you? You are all good, Random Stuff. You're all good. Imagine you're a small folk and you see naked Aemon walking back to the Red Keep. Yeah, and he's also doing it like really menacingly. Like he doesn't seem normal. He's kind of freaky. That's all I'm saying. So women may be getting a show though. They may be getting a show. I'm sure they have a lot. God, Aegon. Yeah, there's a lot of naked Targaryens. That's all I'll say. How much time left for episode 4? For me, it's not for me. For everybody, it's going to be coming out in about 3.5 hours. So yeah. Do you think Allison sent her brother with Cole because she wants her brother to kill him? I don't think so, but it Could be. Maybe that's an interesting twist. Oh, okay, Ashley, let me get to your question. I kind of got distracted from doing questions because I was trying to get back with chat. Let's just look at some questions. The fuck is Harold Westerling? My usual question. You know what's actually hilarious to me, Ashley? So one of my friends is watching season 1 right now because he hears me talk about it, and I told him he should watch it. And I asked him, to the first 4 episodes, I asked him who his favorite character was, and he went, I don't know. I don't really like any of them, but I'll say my favorite character is probably Harold Westerling. And I was like, that's a pretty good choice. I can't hate on that choice. You know, he doesn't get the most amount of screen time, but it's a solid choice. Joffrey, solid choice. But Harold Westerling right now, I honestly don't know. Right now, he's probably just like in the shadows. Maybe he's trying to make his way to Dragonstone, but he had some struggles getting there. Maybe he was like, screw it, I'm not even getting involved in this war. I'm going to pop out at the last second. I don't know. Harold Westerling's a mysterious guy. Because, like, Barristan, it makes sense, right? Because, like, Barristan, when he, like, just kind of disappears, it makes sense. It's like, okay, he wants to go for the rightful Targaryen. Well, Daenerys is kind of pretty far away from King's Landing, so it's going to be hard to track her down, so you don't see him for a while. It's like, if Harold Westerling wanted to support Rhaenyra, it's not that hard. I mean, I don't know how many people have gone back and forth from King's Landing to Dragonstone in that amount of episodes he's been gone, so I don't know. I was expecting to have seen him by now, but I don't know. Grease, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad does King's Landing smell? Probably like, if we're talking about 10 being the worst, or, well, let's say 1 is the worst. I'm going to say that it smells like a 1 out of 10. It's bad. Like, you would leave a very bad review of it on the internet. Out of those, most realistic is Corliss. I agree. Agreed. I mean, you can smell the shit from 5 miles away. It's known. I keep getting Rhaena and Bela mixed up. Yeah, I do too. There's like certain, like, even when I'm recording, it's like I know like which one really is which one, but it's like my brain just has brain farts. I swear, whenever I have to talk about them doing a recording, I always mix them up, and then you have to see like a weird cut. Yeah, it is what it is. Sometimes I cover it up when I put an image on the screen, so you guys don't even know. I mean, you could probably tell if you listen, but I used that cloak for some of my devious actions. Oh God. I want you to write a book about yourself. I think that'd be cool. Of course, random stuff, of course. Lots of people suspect the Winds of Winter is coming soon, but in my opinion, it's a Duncan Egg novella that's coming. It's definitely possible. Like, he still hasn't, like, talked about Winds of Winter. Like, yeah, he brought it up, but he didn't bring it up as in a, like, oh yeah, I'm getting some good progress to it, or we're getting close to the end of it. It's like, no, there wasn't really anything in it. He just said, oh yeah, people are upset that I haven't finished it yet. Like, obviously. Oh, random stuff. Maybe the real Herald was the Westerlings we made along the way. Well, Rob definitely likes his Westerlings. That's all I'll say. I feel like Harold was killed off screen because why would they let him leave after he quit? But if they did that off screen, that's even worse than Barristan. Like, I know Barristan's a more likable character, and we know more of Barristan than we do Harold Westerling, but if my man got killed off screen, that might be the worst change I've ever seen. Like, ever seen. He makes this whole big deal about, not supporting the Greens, and then why would you, like, have this moment where it looks like Kristen Cole and Harold Westerling are gonna fight, and then you say, oh yeah, he got killed off screen? Hopefully that's not a thing. We don't need another Laenor. Hi, Zeno. How are you? No, Kristen Cole is not Daeron's dad. It's not happening. It's not a thing. If we get to Daeron and he looks like some Kristen Cole wannabe, I'm going to be pissed. How do you feel about Helena being all good with his or with her son being murdered, opposed to her character development in the book? Well, Helena doesn't really have a character in the book. Like, she's just kind of just an average woman, and then she goes down the kind of depressed route, and yeah. But I think Helena's, in my opinion, I like her better in not in Fireblood, in House of the Dragon than Fire and Blood. Do you feel like Laenor is still alive but just mortally injured? I think Laenor is still alive, probably. I don't. They'd have to. I just don't see a way where you kill Laenor off screen, given how important of a character he was, and then not mention it at all. I don't know. I agree, Ashley. If Harold survived and left the Greens, he wasn't killed. They're gonna have to give me some explanation as to why it's taken him so long to get to Rhaenyra, or what he's been doing. Like, has he been getting the Westerlings to back Rhaenyra? Is he trying to rally an army for Rhaenyra? Like, you'd have to give me something about what's going on there. Happy there's a stream today. I was about to nap and then wake up for the episode. Well, yeah, I'm streaming before it. I'm streaming after it. So, and then I'm streaming about the same time. Well, not about the same time, but about 2 hours later tomorrow. I'm of the mind that Laenor shows up at the gullet. Interesting. Oh, interesting. Larys captured Harold Westering is making him into House of the Dragon version of Robert Strong. Oh, I'd hate that so much. I'd hate that so much. Do you think the season will see the Winter Wolves? If we do, it'd be at the very end, I think. Grease, so far, do you think Rhaenyra is showing signs of a good ruler in the show comparatively from the book to the show? She's a far better ruler, I think, in the show than she is in the book. Now, things like episode 3 make me question saying that, because she seems really stupid in episode 3. But in terms of the show, yeah, she has a lot of restraint. I know there's this line that people like to meme of her saying she doesn't care about the people, but younger version of Rhaenyra, very different context, and people are publicly bashing her. So kind of a different, thing. But I think she does seem to care about her people. Like, think about how she treats Missaria and all of that. She seems like a far better ruler in the show than she ever was in the book. In the book, she's a terrible ruler. Even at the beginning, before stuff starts happening, she was never a good ruler. Same goes for Aegon, right? I think both of them have shown to be at least more competent rulers in the show than they were in the book. I think Ricky predicted the fish feed will possibly be the finale, so the Winter Wolves could show up. Yeah, I think if we see him, it's going to be the last 2 episodes, or it's going to be next season. Maybe Radical, maybe. How'd the ultrasound go, Dakota? Also, let's be honest. If Rhaenyra was so concerned about peace, she would step down and let Aegon rule, so there wouldn't be a war. She and Aegon are the driving factors of the war. Not wrong. If Rhaenyra really cares about stopping the slaughter, about, having peace, she would step down. But that's, again, it's not really the character of Rhaenyra in terms of, yeah, she should be queen, all this stuff. So, I don't know. I like her book counterpart more. Her book counterpart is way more interesting than her show counterpart is. If I wasn't a big fan of Rhaenyra based off of the book, if I didn't come into House of the Dragon with Rhaenyra already being my favorite Targaryen, I would not have the attachment to the character that I do, because she's not that complex of a character in the show. She does have things that are interesting about the character, right? It's just we haven't gotten to the Rhaenyra of the book yet for me to say, oh yeah, she's a top character of the show in terms of development and her character. Right now, don't get me wrong, I think Emma does a great job with the character. I'm talking about just what they've done with the character so far, and this could change by the end of the season, right? Depending on when we get more development for Rhaenyra, that could change. But the Rhaenyra of the show just is not as interesting as she is in the book. Rhaenyra risked her life to prevent an all-out war stands for something. I mean, she did, but at the same time, it was very stupid. Like, Rhaenyra going to see Alicent was very dumb. It was very, like, you could say in a way, she should have probably gotten caught. Like, if Alicent has any functioning brain cells that worked, she would have had Rhaenyra imprisoned. Saves, I don't know how many lives. Your son is trying to go on the throne, and you yourself realize there can be no peace. It makes zero sense in any regard, whatever her feelings are for Rhaenyra, to not take Rhaenyra into prison. That's what they have to eventually do regardless. It makes no sense. So, I don't know. I'm excited for the episode. I hope they do it justice. Agreed. It went okay. The doc made it weird. What would the doc do, Dakota? If you don't mind me asking. Is there a chance we could see Old Town next season? Yeah, we definitely, I think we'll see Old Town next season. I don't agree that, Andrew, I agree with you to an extent. Like, she just is not as layered as she is in the book. Right? Like, she just comes off as the hero in the show. She is always given all the opportunities to try and make peace, and it's kind of the other side that's not cooperating. I don't know. Everyone is forgetting something. Rhaenyra believes it's her duty to unite the realm to defeat the others. She can't just step down and leave the realm in Aegon's hands. He's not serious about anything at all. Agreed, Ashley, agreed. Stop throwing shade at my grandmother. Hey, Aegon, I made an entire YouTube short simping over your grandmother, so it's fine. Personally, I like show Aegon over book. I do too, Zeno. I mean, realistically, neither Aegon II or Rhaenyra is fit to rule. Jace is better equipped to rule. I think Jace would be a good king. I do agree. I think the best option. Now, this is hard to say because Rhaenys did kill a bunch of people. The Rhaenys of the book is probably the best ruler. I think Rhaenys would have made a very good queen. But unfortunately, we didn't go down that route. But, yeah, no. It's like the Boltons not being allowed to hold the North for that reason. Agreed. Jordan Martin says a good ruler, she's ruling as a duty, not a privilege. I feel like the show has a different idea. And I would be interested, like, what's your rationale for the show of, like, so what are your thoughts then on like, what the show is doing with, like, Rhaenyra and Aegon? In terms of, like, why do you think that that's kind of implied to the show? I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that. Book Rhaenyra is our thick queen. I love justice for plus-size characters. Fair enough, fair enough. I hope the Fall of King's Landing is next season. Yeah, I think it's going to be next season, but if it does happen, it could be the very end of the season. Patty back for a Harrenhal vision would be insane. I'd love that. But I'd also like more Millie. So if Millie comes back for another vision, that'd be great. Fair enough, Dakota. Fair enough. That's all I got to hear. Maz, preach. Greece, would war not happen if Rhaenyra married Aegon? If Rhaenyra and Aegon got together, that probably ends everything. That ends pretty much all of it. Because the whole thing with the Hightowers was they wanted to get on the throne, right? They've been trying to do it even before the dance. They tried it with Maegor, right? And it made a lot of sense for them to do so as well. Between Maegor's line and Aenys' line, Maegor had all the power, right? He had Visenya backing him. He had himself, who was a better warrior, had the better dragon. And so they've already tried. So if they got their line with Rhaenyra on the throne, that means the Hightowers from now on, their line would be connected to the throne. Yes, that would end. A war would not happen. Radical, I kind of like almost agree with you because I think, given what we know the events of this episode are going to be, the fallout of that is going to be even more interesting, right? Like, it's what made, episode 2 so great, because it reacted to Blood and Cheese really well. It gave us some raw emotion that was great to see. And so, again, I do agree. I think that's one of the beauties of those big moments, is that the aftermath is always, going to be awesome if those moments are done at least somewhat right. Maybe the end of the season, Ghost. Maybe. Can anyone explain to me why Rhaenys had no issue killing dozens of innocent small folk when she burst through the floor, but moments later is unable to kill the Green faction to prevent a civil war? It's why it's the worst scene of the show so far. That's all I can say. I am interested, because I will be doing when we get through this season, I want to do a video kind of like how, if you guys have heard of Nerd Soup, probably have, their video on this got millions of views. About the best book or best and worst book changes from Fire and Blood to House of the Dragon. I want to do that for season 1 and 2, but that's definitely the worst change. DJ, that's also the feeling I got. The comparisons between Rhaenyra and Dany are very close, especially if you look at Prime Daenerys, season 4 Daenerys. Oh, yeah, Maz. Good luck on your date tonight. That's all I'll say. No, I mean, that was the perfect solution, is Rhaenyra marrying Aegon, or being betrothed, given their, age difference. That was the perfect solution. This never happened. Yeah, that's the thing which makes the dance so interesting, right? Is there's so many different events that point to an inevitability of eventually the dance happening. And even, let's say, even if Rhaenyra and Aegon married, we're going to have that event at some point. It's going to happen. At some point, you're going to have some sort of succession crisis, like a certain First Blackfire Rebellion. Eventually, that's going to happen. And eventually, you're going to have a dance. The dance, in my opinion, was an inevitability, right? It's why having dragons in the world are, we always see the comparison of them being compared to, nukes, in our world. Once that eventually happens, that's where all chaos is going to break out. So it would have just happened at any point, really. I still feel Otto would still push Aegon II over Rhaenyra. There wouldn't really be a push. They would basically be declared together as ruling, right? It doesn't matter if Aegon's the king or not, because after Aegon and Rhaenyra, once that generation is done and Aegon and Rhaenyra both eventually die, which Rhaenyra is going to die much earlier than Aegon probably would, it doesn't matter. You have your line on the throne. It doesn't matter if Aegon or Rhaenyra is the official heir. It doesn't matter. Agreed, Maz. And I also actually, I had a theory that they were going to change when Corlys was made hand, and that does not seem to be the case. So that's, very interesting. Why didn't they get married? So the problem is they were just a massive, age difference, right? So if you remember, it's, I think, episode 3, I believe, where Rhaenyra is actually being broached about this, because she's at an age where she needs to be married off, and she has a bunch of different people trying to get her hand. And, Otto even suggests, betrothing Aegon to Rhaenyra. The difference is, Rhaenyra is already in her teenage area, and Aegon's just a baby at this point, basically. So that betrothal wouldn't really actually come to fruition, because usually you don't see those kind of marriages till they're 14. So it would be it'd still be fine, I guess, because Rhaenyra, it would still be really weird. It'd be really weird. But by Westeros standards, it'd be okay, because Rhaenyra would probably be late 20s, and then marrying Aegon when he was 14 or 15. So, I don't know. That was the issue, though. Viserys didn't want to do that because it was weird and messed up. What do you think of the aftermath of the Cargo Bowl? I thought it was handled well. I mean, again, this is the thing. I think majority of House of the Dragon, in the episodes, are good. It's just they don't really hit on the ending parts. And that was the only episode where the ending really did hit. Yeah, very much will be interesting, Larissa. I think Otto just Gonna try to be a big proponent of gaining allies to the Greens, and he could be our look into maybe the war in the South, maybe. Definitely could be. Agreed, Adam. Agreed. So, rockers, this is I'm also fine with them deviating from the books. My issue is I want that to make sense in terms of the show's continuity, right? That's my issue with big book changes, or have it like make sense, or live up to still having that same emotional value as you saw in the book. And that's why I think like Blood and Cheese is fine. But it's disappointing from a book viewer's point of view when the book was so much better than the show. It still worked though in the show. It still has that feeling. It still works, especially with a casual audience. Maybe Radical, maybe I could. Helena and Jace would have been a great couple. I agree. Dinner party scene was a great scene. I agree though. Do you believe in the Grand Maester conspiracy? I do, DJ. I actually made it's one of like my earliest series, but I did a series on that. It's kind of outdated as of now, but it's like my favorite theory, DJ. The ending of episode 2 was still an Allison and Cole scene. Yeah, that's true, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with them having a romance. I just don't like the way it affected Blood and Cheese. Zeno, I definitely get that as well, right? I understand them going to a casual audience. I just think they're like sacrificing certain things that you don't need to sacrifice to have the casual audience enjoy it. That's kind of how I look at it. Oh, what's your take on the change from canon with Danny's eggs? Interesting that you mentioned that, Radical, because I actually have a video going out probably this week. Yeah, it's definitely gonna be going out this week. It might be an extra video this week. I don't know, but again. I think about it just like this: it's show canon versus book canon. That's the whole topic, right? The show canon is Danny's eggs, and yes, Alyssa Farman stuff is not confirmed, but for the book, I think it's just Alyssa Farman, right? It doesn't make sense in the book context, I don't think. So it's just something that connects Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. To me, it's not that big of a deal in terms of the book. I know the real way we got the eggs, but if the show wants to do that to connect it because there is no Alyssa Farman in the show canon, fine. I don't really. It just doesn't. To me, it doesn't matter that much. The Alyssa Farman story is way better. I agree. I agree. I think it's way cooler of a story. I love that it ties to Rhaena, not the Rhaena of House of the Dragon, but I love the Rhaena of the Jaehaerys time period. All right. Any other questions I need to get through? What percentage chance would you give Melees against Vhagar one-on-one? Vhagar is the bigger dragon, but Princess Rhaenys is the more experienced rider. I think honestly it's a good match. And I think it'd be like 65-35 still with Vhagar just because of his, size. But I do think it's like you could argue maybe 60-40, 65-35. I think there's a chance Rhaenys could beat Vhagar. But I still think again it favors Vhagar winning. All right, so let's go to Discord. If I had any questions on Discord. Questions for stream. All right. So all these came from Wheezy. Can you list some significant departures from Fire and Blood that you've noticed so far? Well, Wheezy, we talked about this a lot actually in this stream, but the big ones are Blood and Cheese, the Alicent's Rhaenyra stuff, Alicent's like her dynamic with Rhaenyra, right? Making the character younger, which I thought was actually a good change, right? That's not a bad change at all. Viserys's change. The Stepstone stuff was kind of different than Fire and Blood. So yeah, I think those would be kind of the more notable ones. And the Rhaenys thing with coming out of the floor. What do you think motivated him? So Season 1, to me, a lot of it I think came down to they were wanting spectacle. They wanted the dragons to be seen. They wanted these big moments that were trying to replicate Game of Thrones, and I don't think they trusted that watchers would just enjoy because of the great character dynamics, great dialogue, and stuff like that. They wanted the big moments. So I think that's kind of what motivated stuff in season 1. Season 2, I think they were, especially with Blood and Cheese, they were trying to create something for Alicent to do. So how she's going to have a relationship with Kristen Cole, how is that dynamic going to work? How is that relationship between her and Helena going to work? I think a lot of that was built upon the back of trying to give Alicent more something to do, and also making it not as violent, not as digestible for maybe casual viewers. And then the Alicent Rhaenyra stuff, I think, was they needed a big moment for episode 3, and they wanted to try and do that because it also made sense given the two had unfinished business. But I don't think it should have been handled here, and I think they should have just stuck to, thinking that Harrenhal would be the big moment of the episode, making the Daemon stuff the end of the episode. I kind of talked about your third question on what they added, detracted, or were neutral to the quality of the story. I kind of talked about that already. We've talked about a lot already in this stream. What part does the fact the book has unreliable narrators, historians play in the differences between the show and the book? Well, I mean, that's the whole key to the show, right? It's the way I've always viewed House of the Dragon is it's an interpretation of Fire and Blood. It's one of the many things or outcomes that possibly could have happened. Now, it's not all like that because, of course, some things are just different because of Alicent's age, like the way Viserys is. There's just clear differences between both, but I've just viewed almost that the Fire and Blood is it's like a Telltale game almost, right? Where it's like you're going through and you're picking what option happened and how does that change your story. And so by the end of it, you may have a completely different story than somebody else, right? Me being a Grandmaster Conspiracy person, I might read Fire and Blood completely different than somebody else would. And that's kind of what House of the Dragon is. Should the show be considered the real history and the canon of the two shows, or canon the book series, or both? So they're two separate things, right? The show canon is the show canon, right? In terms of the Game of Thrones plot line, the Game of Thrones story in the show, it's canon there. But the Book of Fire and Blood, there is no canon, really. There's no true canon of exactly what happens throughout the entire story. There are things we know happened because, we have multiple sources adding it all up. It's a public event or it's a specific date or something like that we have verified information. But there's other things that you don't know what exactly happened. Like, for instance, Alyssa Farman. You don't know, okay, maybe those eggs were Daenerys' eggs. We don't know. Even though all the evidence may point to it, we don't know truly. So, again, I've always said the book canon is the book canon. The show canon is the show canon. It's why, for instance, Rhaegar and Lyanna is not truly confirmed in the book, right? Because the show canon is the show canon, and the book canon is the book canon. Even though it may seem as though George has, in my opinion, almost all but confirmed it's R+L, it's not, because we haven't gotten it in the book yet, it's not confirmed, right? George could always go back on that and say, okay, I've plotted some seeds here, maybe it is Ned and Ashara, right? Or it's this or that. Dakota, you're welcome, by the way. I mentioned your theory for you. Yeah. Also, I gotta pee. I've been drinking too much Aquafina water. You guys chat amongst yourself. Aegon the Fourth. You must dictate the chat while I'm gone and entertain the chat for me, people. I thought of another good example. Okay, think about it like this for book canon, right? Is if somebody was to remake Game of Thrones and they were going to do the Robb Will plotline, right? I would say majority of the community probably believes that Jon was named Robb's heir. But there's always, those people that believe maybe Catelyn was named heir or whatever, right? If a show went back and did that, and we don't have Winds of Winter, the show might say, okay, it was Catelyn. That doesn't mean the canon answer now is that it is Catelyn. So I don't know. Missed a lot of chats. I went on a little bit of a tangent there, and I'm now very far behind chat again. I think some people want to forget about how, I've talked about this at length, right? It's why I didn't like the whole idea of connecting the Aegon's dream stuff to Game of Thrones. Why would I want to be reminded of the main story in the show, because it's not connected to the book? Why would I want to be reminded of that? I don't know. Tomas, or Thomas, however you say your name. I agree. I also will be interested to see how it goes. I agree, Ashley. Arena is one of my favorites. I briefly went over the Alyssa Farman story for a video next week. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to, because I haven't really gotten the time to continue my character analysis 1 through 100 or whatever. I really am looking forward to doing Reyna. We're not very close to where Reyna is ranked right now, but I'll be really happy when we get there. Was there actually Radical in season 7? That's kind of insane. If there was actually a 4 trial, you gotta send me a screenshot. If you're in the Discord, send me a screenshot. That's crazy. You think we'll see the Regency, or they'll end the series before then? I think, DJ, we may see the crowning, and then we'll maybe end there. I agree, Radical. I agree. I agree, Ghost, right? Think about some of the most biggest moments of season 1. Not a lot of it is sword fighting. It's not a lot of that. It's, character moments, right? It's Catelyn taking Tyrion prisoner, because it's this big twist. We've come to like Tyrion, and now he's getting captured by Catelyn, right? It's the King of the North sequence. It's Daenerys bringing the dragons back. It's Ned's death or Ned's coup. It's the morality of the character of Ned and what he's going to do and how he's having his beliefs tested. I agree, Ashley. I agree on your talking about meetings and stuff. Unfortunately, I feel House of Dragon suffering because GOT ended so bad. Everyone is more critical on the changes. I think a part of it is we don't want House of the Dragon to be, end up how Game of Thrones is, where people just didn't seem like they cared about it anymore. It was rushed and all that stuff. And so, yes, there is a part of the community that's going to be very critical because of that. I try to be open-minded about the changes that they do, right? I was expecting going into this season, because this is what Ricky said, there was going to be controversies in this season, expecting changes. I wanted to go into them as why I don't read leaks. I want to go in open-minded, right? I want to see for the first time what they did and rationalize that myself. I don't want to have other people, giving their opinions before I then make my own opinion of what actually happens. Why I don't, for the most part, watch House of the Dragon content from other YouTubers or Song Lights and Fire stuff. Because I noticed that I had my own bias when I went to review stuff, especially around House of the Dragon season 1, but not really. I didn't do it for House of the Dragon season 1, but for other stuff. My opinions were kind of if I watched a review of a spoiler-free review before I went into a movie, it would kind of sway my opinion of it. I'd look at it from a different light. That would be cool if it was an anthology as well. That'd be really cool. Aegon the Fourth is fully taken over chat is true. N plus A will be book canon. All right, guys. He's gone. Aquafina kind of sucks. He's gone. Oh, God. Dakota, don't do it. Don't do it. Whoa, we're bringing up Quentin, too? That's no good. I don't love Aquafina. Ashley, that's outrageous. We need to get Daron in the chat. Yeah, my ultimate goal. This is my ultimate goal. Is to get Daron, Aegon, Daemon, Bloodraven, and Aegor all in the same chat. I've seen 3 of them. I've seen 2 of them at the same time. I haven't seen all 3 of the ones I have actually seen. I've seen Daemon, Aegon, and I've seen Aegor. But I don't think I've seen Bloodraven. I don't think I've seen Daron. Do you feel like the first spinoff should have been Aegon's Conquest so they could go forward through the timelines of having each spinoff? No, I think this is the perfect place to start. I think the dance to me is the closest, maybe not the closest to Game of Thrones, but it's the most entertaining time period to me outside of the main story that also would then kind of connect to the main story. It would still feel like the main story. I think it was a perfect place to start here. It was an easy slam dunk to me. Thank you, DJ. Appreciate it. I appreciate it. I always ask this because I'm curious. What was the first video you saw of mine? It always pains me when people say George R. R. Martin Winds of Winter videos, and I'm like, it's a video talking about Winds of Winter about George. I always hate that. I'm like, man, why couldn't it be a good video? Maekar and Baelor too, maybe. I may be in the mood after tonight. Oh my. Maybe when they do the Conquest series, they'll finally give Dorne the respect it deserves, hopefully. See, I love the Conquest. I know some other people don't want to see the Conquest. I personally love the Conquest. All right, I need my phone because we got to get some questions from Instagram. Oh God, they're talking about pleasures in chat. I feel like a third wheel right now. I liked your season 5 video. Season 5, that was a good. I liked that doing that video because that was a video where I was like, I was watching the episode and then writing down like probably about a page in Google Docs of what I thought about the episode, and then it was kind of just my overall thoughts. I really enjoyed that video. I think, I don't know. I think season 5 is overhated, but it also doesn't deserve a lot of love either. It's like, it's one of those things where I can appreciate it for what it was, but it also had a lot of flaws. A lot of flaws. That's all I'll say. A lot of flaws. But yeah. You have to see the first part of the comment for context? Okay, hold on. Do you like being tickled? Oh my. Oh my. I mean, Ashley, that's very forward of you. That's all I'm saying. Your Will Danny Go Mad and Wins video. Okay. That's fair. I'm pretty sure I have like 3 of those type of videos on my channel, so I'm not even sure which one you would be referring to, but that's fair. Okay. I like that it wasn't like my most popular video. I talk about this on the channel all the time. I hate that my most popular video or my most watched video on this channel is why Winds of Winter may never come out. I mean, that was a Patreon video because somebody wanted me to kind of talk about it. Why do give the opposite perspective? But yeah, I don't like that videos that like that video didn't take a lot of effort to make, and so it's not as satisfying that video did well. I don't know. Massive spoilers right off the bat from Instagram questions. They got right to the point. So yeah, if you don't want to be spoiled, this is your time. That's all I'm gonna say. What season will Otto be executed? My guess would be season 3. And that came from, I hate that it doesn't show people's actual names. It just says their username. EWO. I know you've commented on videos before. I appreciate you. How do you think this season ends? And this comes from Matthew, by the way. I think the season probably ends with the Dragon Seeds plotline. I don't think we're going to get into some stuff with King's Landing in this season. I think it'll be a lot of the build up to the Battle of the Gullet. Larissa asks, what do you think will happen with Otto? Will they stick to the book or create a new story for him? I think it'll be a mix of both. I think the end result, I think, will be the same, but how we get there is quite different. I think it'll be him. Maybe he'll have his own little subplot, maybe either in the back 4 episodes of the season or whether it'll be in next season, of him trying to gain support for the Greens. Maybe he'll be a little bit of an insight into the Southern plot going on, some of the wars, the internal conflict going on in the Reach could be seen through maybe his eyes. I think all that would be really cool. I think that's where we're kind of going with it. It's kind of going to be a mix of both, I think, Larissa. Do you think this episode will be again, spoilers, but the best dragon battle? No. I think we'll see one better that has more weight to it, but it definitely should be a good episode. Maz, being his ever clever self, says, I hope everyone has comfortable shoes on because the dance is about to start. It is true. Hannah, my friend's wife, being the troll that she is, says, what town is the House of Dragons in? I've heard it's a great place to be. Yeah, you want to be probably around River Run, but not in a castle, just like in one of the towns surrounding it. They're usually pretty safe during wars. All right. Let's see what we got on chat, and then I'm gonna head off the stream. I'm gonna eat dinner, get mentally prepared for the episode, and all that. Grease, do you watch the inside of the episode commentary from the cast? One of the eggs going to the Vale was confirmed to be Viserys' egg or eggs. I do not. Supercuts did a take on season 5 that was good. I wouldn't say overhated due to the treatment of Dorne and cut content. I mean, I think it's one of those things where some people will say that season 5 is just terrible and it's bad. And that's where I'm like, I crossed the line because I think there is good things in season 5. Like I talked about this in the video. I think Jon's plotline, pretty good. I think Cersei's plotline, pretty good. I think Stannis' plotline, pretty good up until like the last scene or two of the thing, which is very important to actually land on. But for the most part, Stannis is pretty entertaining to watch majority of the season. Tyrion, I think, was handled pretty well. It's unfortunate we don't get to see young Griff, which was detrimental to the show. But his actual arc, if you're not looking at it from the book point of view, is actually pretty decent. I think the way like the back half of Tyrion's arc in Dance is handled is way better in the show than it is the book. Daenerys' arc is pretty good all the way through outside of the Barristan stuff. Again, there's little hitches here and there. So, I mean, again, there's good stuff to be had in season 5, but there's also bad stuff. But I will say this to my grave. Season 5 is better than season 6. It's not even close. It's not even close. Like, season 6 is pretty much like 8 unbearable episodes to watch. Like, I just don't enjoy watching any aspects of any of the plot lines. And then there's like an entertaining episode 9, and there's a pretty good episode 10. That's season 6. Ooh, that's cool, Radical, on writing a short story. Fun fact, when I was a senior in high school, we had to do like a senior memory book, so it was just like, you remembered it, I guess. And one of it was like, you could write your own story, or you could write whatever you want to do. I actually wrote a rewrite of, or not a rewrite, but I did like a Winds of Winter fanfic of Stannis' plotline. It wasn't very good. Like it was only like, I guess if we were gonna put it to like book pages, it might have been like 10 book pages, but it was an interesting start. That's all I'll say. Interesting, Robbie. That's very possible. They could die in episode 8. Very possible. At the pace of the story, season 3 is gonna be a bloodbath. I agree. I think that's where we're kind of going, DJ. Larissa's may still be here, Dakota. She lingers. Do you think we'll see any land battles in this series with no dragons involved at all? Yes, I think we will. Your friend is the troll, not me. Agreed. I agree. She is definitely a troll. If they ever remake Game of Thrones 15 years, would you accept it? Yeah, I'd be cool with a remake. I just don't think, like, you got to give it some space. You can't do it now. They need to wait a while. When you were a senior in high school, wasn't that like a year ago? No. I was a senior in high school, like 6 years ago. Yeah, 6 and a couple months ago, or 6 years and a couple months. Crazy storm on you. Oh, that's not good. That is no good. We had some pretty bad storms like Wednesday and Thursday, I think. But yeah, that will be the end of my preview stream for episode 4. We are going to be heading towards, I would say, the mid-season climax of the show and all of that. And yeah, I hope you guys all enjoy it. I'm really excited to get into it after the episode again. We'll be live after the episode, probably around 9:15, 9:20 Central Time for me. But yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed. Hopefully the episode's not too traumatic for you, Ashley. I'll see you.